The enemy is coming. We are in the second episode of David's journey, the life of King David. Today we're going to speak about his bitter opponent, Goliath, the King Kong of the Philistines. I have my own personal David here next to me. I have the mighty warrior David in the back. We have the mighty warrior Yehuda and the mighty warrior Moses. These are brave soldiers from the Israeli camp. Let's see how it continues. Ooh. Samuel A, chapter 17. The Elah Valley in Israel. The Philistines and the Israelites are getting ready for a war. On one hill, the Israelites, on the opposite hill, the Philistines, in between them, the valley. From the Philistines' camp comes a giant man. His name is Goliath. For 40 days, he is challenging the Israelites by making crazy offer. Instead of two armies clashing in a brutal combat, he suggests, actually demands, to fight the best Israeli warrior, and by doing so, to determine the future of those two nations. Goliath says, if your champion will win, we will be your slaves forever. If I will win your champion, you will be our slaves. By that time, King Saul is already hopeless and simply doesn't know what to do. He is offering as a price his daughter and tremendous amount of fortune to the man that will defeat Goliath. But no one volunteers to this suicide mission. At the same time exactly, David arrives in the Israeli camp. His father Jesse sends him to check on his three older brothers and to deliver some food. The three brothers, Eliav, Avinadav, and Shammah, are not that happy to see David. The older one, Eliav, accuses David of being selfish, careless, and showing up in the battlefield for the wrong reasons, for basically a personal agenda, to win Saul's daughter and the money that the king offers as a prize. David ignores the accusations, criticism, and judgment of his own brothers and decides to take upon himself this suicide mission. King Saul, from his side, tries to convince David that this mission is not for him. He's telling David, you are a young boy. Goliath has been training since day one to become the killer that he is right now. What do you know about warfare? David answers, well, in the past I killed a bear, I killed a lion, but Saul is not convinced. To prove his point, Saul puts on David his heavy sword, his armor, and sending him to the battle. But David cannot move with this heavy weaponry. Therefore, David drops Saul's heavy sword, he drops the armor, and decides to step into the battlefield almost completely unprotected. He takes with him only 5 stones that he picked from the creek and a stick. As the two men approaching each other, stepping into the valley, Goliath is yelling to David, am I a dog that you coming to fight me with sticks and stones? To which David replies, you coming to fight me with the best military equipment, with weaponry, I'm going to defeat you by the name of God. Okay, let's continue. David, Goliath in the battlefield. As we mentioned, King David has these 5 stones in his slingshot. He finds the weak spot in Goliath's body. That will be, of course, the forehead. He shoots the stone. It's actually 5 stones that became united to be as 1 stone. He shoots it into Goliath's head, the weak spot, again, the forehead. The Zohar talks about it, how exactly it became a weak spot. We'll speak about it in the future. And of course, he basically is able to defeat Goliath. He takes Goliath's sword, very kind of a brutal situation. It chops off his head, and the Israelites, Of course, they see the great win, they're chasing the Philistines, the battle continues. Of course, the Israelites coming with the upper hand, and they are victorious. We, of course, want to understand some of the secrets concerning this battle. What's really going on there? According to the spiritual wisdom of Kabbalah, the literal story, as much as it might be very interesting, sometimes even entertaining, there are some secrets there. So first of all, the 5 stones that David picks from the stream, from this kind of river, and as I mentioned, the stones unite to be as one. What is the secret there? What is the understanding? Now, we mentioned many times already that the universe is based on the 10 luminous emanations, 10 parallel universes, if you like. So when we speak about the 5 stones that David takes from the creek, we're talking about the emanations of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, and Hod. We're talking about energies, spiritual energies. We do understand, of course, that David knew, and will speak in the future also about the source of David's soul, where exactly it's coming from. But he knew about the great responsibilities that lies on his shoulders, and he understood that something very unique is happening here. Of course, David understood as well that he needs to use metaphysical forces, spiritual energies. Spiritual energies. So he takes these 5 energies, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, and Hod. 5 energies from the tree of life reality. I'm not expanding right now about each one of the energies, but we are talking about the parallel chaos-free universe of the tree of life. That's where all strength, wisdom, goodness is coming from. And when he picks the stones from the river represents the emanation that is being called Yesod, foundation. What does it mean? It means a funnel where all the spiritual energy is coming through and eventually manifested in the physical reality. So David understands that he needs to take this tree of life reality as he's battling Goliath. And shortly I will expand also about Goliath himself. What's the battle there exactly? I mean, there are so many secrets there, but I'll try to focus at least on one of them. So David takes these 5 realities, these 5 powerful spiritual energies. He takes them from the creek. The creek, the water stream, represents again Yesod, foundation, also still part of the tree of life reality. But this Yesod, by the way, in our body is the reproductive organ. This Yesod takes all the life forces and uniting it to one big life force. So David basically is taking from the life force of the Creator, taking all the energy, uniting the energies to be as one. And that's the first secret. The 5 stones that David puts in his slingshot represents different types of unity, of taking energies and putting it together instead of creating fragmentation. The 5 stones become to be as one stone, Yesod. The river itself is Yesod. He's taking the energy and he finds the weak spot in Goliath's body. That will be the forehead. When you read the story in Samuel 8, chapter 17, it talks about the fact that the stone went into Goliath's brain, into his mind. What's the secret there? When Goliath says to David, "Am I a dog? Am I a dog that you're coming to me with sticks and stones?" Rabbi Isaac Luria, the great Kabbalist, the Ari, says in his writings that when Goliath refers to himself or asks David, "Am I a dog?" what is a dog? The dog, and it's nothing against dogs, of course, But the dog represents the force of Amalek, ancient nation. But many of you are already familiar with the code of Amalek. If not, I'm going to say it now anyway. Amalek, this supposedly ancient nation, really representing the force of uncertainty, doubts, fears, insecurities. So again, when Goliath is saying, am I a dog? He refers really to himself as representative of the force of doubts, uncertainty, and fears that we all have in our lives. David is being referred to as a boy. Saul tells him, you're only a young boy, a teenager, a lad. And there he explains, what is the code there? What does it mean that David is being referred to as a young individual, a boy, a lad? The same expression is being used for Joshua, another great soul. Joshua, Moses' boy, Moses' successor. Joshua was a descendant of Yosef Tzaddik, Joseph the Righteous. Joshua was the actual individual that was in the battlefield, in the historical war against Amalek, which we already know. It's the war against uncertainty. It's a war against the doubts, the confusion. When we are lost, we don't know exactly what to do. So Joshua was the 5 stars general in the physical battlefield. But the Zohar reveals a deep secret about Joshua, that is also called a boy. Joshua is being called a boy, a lad. David is being called a boy, a lad. So the Zohar is saying that Joshua, that was so instrumental, and still those souls are functioning in our lives. Joshua was a pure channel to the angel Matatron. You will see it on the screen in a second. The angel Matatron is a giant angel. We're not talking about, obviously, about the physical size, but the amount of light and certainty that the angel Matatron channels into this physical universe is beyond our imagination. Joshua was connected to this angel. The same thing with David. The same thing with David. David is being called a boy, a lad, like Joshua, and David, in his struggle with Goliath, which represents the energy of Amalek, we're talking about another story in the Bible about our worst enemy, the real enemy, the one that we so afraid of, but many of us maybe don't really realize how much this is a mighty enemy, the force of uncertainty. Goliath, a dog representing Amalek, uncertainty. David, the boy, the lad, representing or being a channel for the force of Matatron, this great angel channeling. That answers the question, why over few occasions, even when nobody believed in him, at least 3 occasions that we can see. The first one, as we mentioned, Jesse and the entire family, David's family, didn't even consider him to be, maybe he's the person that Samuel, the prophet, is looking for. Nobody believed in him. Nobody believed in David. Second time, even when he shows up to the battlefield with his brothers, we spoke about it. The 3 brothers, but mainly the older one, Eliav, is giving David hard time. Doesn't believe in him at all. The third time, King Saul, is telling David, it's impossible mission for you. Remember? You cannot really go and fight Goliath. What are you thinking? What's in your mind? But we see all along that David believed in himself. Many times we're looking for people around us, and sometimes we do need it. Certain type of support, for somebody to believe in me, for somebody to believe in us. But David was so much connected to the force of certainty. He was channeling this energy via or through the angel Matat, that maybe you will see it now again on the screen. Since or because David was so connected to this force of certainty, David believed in himself. Well, he believed, he had certainty in the life force of the Creator, in this life force. He united all the energies, those are the 5 stones, to be as one. He believes in himself. He knows that he is connected. We need this energy, this force in our lives. It's great when people believe in us. It's great. It's great when we get some kind of approval and validation. But that's not the real way to go about different situations in our lives. At the end of the day, we want to develop this strength, this force, this energy from the inside and out. Another secret that I want to share about King David, there are so many of them, and as we're going to get deeper and deeper into the biblical stories, you will see so many of them. King David's soul came from a pretty much harsh, dark place. I will keep most of the explanation for the next episode. King David's soul was completely connected also to Jacob the patriarch. When Jacob the patriarch had the conflict with his brother Esau, and from Esau came Amalek. From Esau came Amalek, the force of uncertainty. So we have this struggle between Yaakov, Jacob the patriarch, that is reincarnation of Adam, the first man ever, and Esau, which is reincarnation of the serpent. It's not a physical snake or a physical serpent. We're talking about a negative force of chaos, of pain, of uncertainty, of course. So when Jacob had this struggle, this energy battle with Esau, his twin brother, we know that the father, Isaac, gave them blessings. We won't go now into the details, and many of you are actually familiar with the story, and if you're not, it's also fine. But Isaac is giving Jacob a specific, very powerful blessing. Isaac is saying to Jacob, eventually you're going to defeat all of your enemies. And we're talking really about, sometimes there are physical enemies, but it all starts with energy, with negative energy. So Isaac, Yitzchak, is saying to Jacob, Heve gvir leachicha. You're going to defeat, you're going to overpower, you're going to win all of your battles. But the word that Isaac, Yitzchak, is using, Heve, and you will become, and you will be. Heve means become, or you will be the victorious. You will have the triumphs, the triumph. You will bring light that will remove any kind of darkness. Heve gvir leachicha. The Zohar is revealing a great secret. This Hebrew word, heve, that translates again in English as, and you should be, you will become victorious. This Hebrew word, heve, is a very powerful sequence of energy that Jacob handed over to David. Of course, they lived centuries apart from each other, but their souls are actually completely connected. So David got from Jacob this blessing, this meditation, if you like, Heve gver leachicha. You should rule, you will defeat all of the chaos agents in your life. All the chaos, all the fear, all the pain agents in your life by using this word, meditation, Heve. The first letter, Hey, representing the reservoir of endless energy. It's been called Bina. Bina supernal cosmic mother for all of our souls. And Binah, it's about, will be 8 emanations, 8 dimensions higher, deeper than the physical realm. It's been called Binah. That's the first Hey, Hebrew letter Hey, in this word Heveh. The second letter, Vav, the Hebrew letter Vav, it looks like a pipe, like a conduit. It's the letter that brings this energy. Remember, the 5 stones from the creek, from the water stream, uniting the energy and bringing it into this physical realm. That's the letter Vav. And the final letter, Hey, which is exactly like the first letter, but now it's at the end of the sequence, Hey, that's what is being called Malchut, the physical realm. So, David got this energy from Yaakov, from Jacob. And the Zohar is saying, with that sequence of energy, Heveh, David was able to draw into himself, into our lives, because it's a channel for whatever we are going through in the physical realm. So David connected to bravery, to being so mighty, to being so strong, believing in the light force that is within himself. Know that the energy is already and always there. Heveh gver le'achicha. Binah, what we call Zer Anpin, the Yesod of Zer Anpin, bringing the energy and eventually manifesting it in the physical reality. You will see it in the screen right now. So those are only 2 of the secrets that we can see from the story of Goliath, and actually all the wars and battles that David was involved throughout his life. He always used these 2 forces of the angel Matat plus Ron and this sequence Heveh. Next time, I would like to speak, we'll continue with the actual biblical story. There are so many stories about King David, obviously.
On your film.
And also we'll speak about Magen David, what people usually call the Star of David and David's shield. So again, it's energy of protection. We'll continue with the actual stories of King David. Again, I think we'll have like 100 sessions at least about King David and David's shield.